Well, the screenplay is great because what happens is that when I read it, I couldn't stop turning the pages. And what's interesting about it is that the suspense in the movie comes from what are these characters going to do and what's going to happen to these characters. It's not like there's a ticking bomb or a meteor is going to come and destroy the earth or suspense in that regard. It's like we're there not understanding what these characters are going to do from scene to scene to scene. And whenever you can find a screenplay that's got that kind of depth to it and that kind of complexity, it's a very rare thing nowadays. And to me, that's what kept me turning the pages. I wanted to see how this was going to resolve itself. What was going to happen to Whip's character? It's a story about a human being. It's a story about a man. That's what it's really about. He happens to be an airline pilot. But he happens to be an airline pilot who ends up on an airplane that is got a problem. But the story is really about this character, the character that Denzel plays. Ironically, John Goodman's character is the classic enabler, pusher, and he has the most comedy in the movie, and he is a comedy release, but there's a lot of irony in it because he's basically, maybe you might consider him the most dangerous character in the movie, but there's a truth to his character, and anytime there's a truth to anything, that's where comedy comes from. And John, of course, is just a great actor who has great comedy timing and great ability to ad-lib, and he just knew exactly what he needed to do for this character, and he came in, and everything he did was, I wish I could make the movie like another hour longer, because everything he did was fantastic, and his ability to just have that timing was, just great. The way Denzel and I talked about how he would react to Don Cheadle's character is that Whip doesn't like him. Yet he's there to save Whip, but they don't like each other. And for obvious reasons, I mean, Don Cheadle doesn't like Whip because he doesn't like what Whip represents. But it's interesting, I think you can see in the deep psychology of Whip's character, he can't stand the idea that this is where his life is and that he needs somebody like Don Cheadle to help him. He doesn't quite understand how he got to this place, but all he can do is lash out at him. And he doesn't like him, but yet he needs him because he's going to save him from having to go to prison. It's a very complicated, very magnificent relationship. Yeah, the character that Bruce Greenwood plays is sort of, he's sort of like an anchor. He's like every man. He almost like, he's the guy, he's like the one guy who represents truth and justice and the right thing in the movie. Yet everybody around him got so much more, seems to have so much more power that they're overwhelming, and overwhelming, his position in the film. And what he needs, what he wants to do as his character is just help his good friend, who he appreciates as this great pilot. Someone who he knew all through his youth, and they came up together in the Navy, and he understands that Whip was put in a defective airplane and saved all those lives. And so that's where he is. He's sort of the steady kind of everyman in the piece. I think the toughest scene was obviously the plane crash. That involved a lot of logistics, a lot of special effects, a lot of stunt people. We had to have the plane upside down. We built the entire plane cabin on a gimbal, the cockpit on a gimbal. It was on vibrators and shakers, and it was a very complicated scene. And hanging a lot of hanging about 50 people upside down. Is time-consuming and scary to do. Movies don't have to. There seems to be this kind of unwritten rule that if a movie's a drama, there's no room for comedy or action. And I don't agree. I think that a movie that could be an emotional, dramatic story, there's plenty of room to have comedy in it and action in it and suspense. And this movie has all of that.